So we wouldn't be here without Andrzej Sapkowski, who obviously created the beloved Witcher world. Now, sadly, he can't join us in the studio today, but he did send us this personal message. So he says, "It gives me great pleasure to welcome all Witcher enthusiasts, fans of the books, the TV series, and the video games to the virtual WitcherCon convention. I'm sure that we'll all have grand fun, and when these challenging times are finally over, we'll meet again at WitcherCon," which is kind of really sweet. Oh, well, without further ado, let's get started. Kicking us off is our house band, the amazing Marcin Pibivovic and Percival, who you might know as the musical masterminds responsible for the Witcher game soundtracks. Take it away, guys. And we're moving straight from one card game into another. And if you're wondering what on earth we were talking about, you know, when we mentioned Gwent, the Witcher card game earlier, then stick around for a short explainer coming right up.
Set in a dark and twisted world full of witchers, monsters, knights, and sorceresses, Gwent is a card game where armies clash and you, as commander, lead the charge. You engage in battles divided into rounds. To win a round, you need to gain more points than your opponent. To win a battle, you need to claim victory in 2 out of 3 rounds. Sound easy? Trust me, it won't be. Behold your favorite characters, beautifully drawn and animated. Outsmart your opponents on the battlefield, and expand your collection of cards just by playing. Powerful armies and mighty commanders, tough choices and brutal consequences. This is the world of the Witcher, and it's at your fingertips. So see you on the battlefield.
Hello everyone, we are here today to talk to you a little bit about how we make the stories for our Witcher games. So for everyone who might not know what our Witcher games are, essentially you are playing as the Witcher, Geralt of Rivia, and you are exploring the world of the Witcher, and you basically do your job and you experience many different stories that we also refer to as quests. So those are the missions you undertake in this world. I work as a lead acting quest designer in Warsaw, and with me is Błażej.
Hello, I'm Błażej Augustynek. I'm the acting lead quest designer for Kraków, the Krakow studio. I've worked on The Witcher and Cyberpunk, been in the studio for 7 or 8 years, I think.
So my name is Philip Weber, and then I just really want to get into the first of the topics that we want to talk about today. And that is essentially what makes our games unique. Since, there's many different ways of exploring and experiencing The Witcher. There are, of course, the original books by Andrzej Sapkowski, and then there's also, of course, the Netflix series. So we want to talk a little bit about what makes these games special.
Well, games as a medium are very different from books. That goes without saying. For us, it's important because it allows us to immerse you as the player into the world in a way that any other medium cannot do, which is really exciting as an opportunity for a game developer. Also, we've set the games in the timeline after the books, which gives us basically the whole world as a blank canvas, right? In which we can tell our own stories. The challenge there, though, is to make these stories feel like they belong in that world, like they are part of it. Like if Andrzej Sapkowski were to make a game, that would be the game he would make. That's our hope, at least, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and there's lots of questions we basically had to answer. So as an example, when the first Witcher game was developed, it was started in 2002, and basically it wasn't even clear yet if we're even gonna play as Geralt of Rivia, because basically the thought was maybe we could make our own Witcher. So for the first few years, basically, we tried to make it so you can make your own Witcher and you're exploring new lands. But then, over and over, kind of the question came, the game is called The Witcher. Everyone who loves the books really likes...
know who The Witcher is, right?
Exactly, it's Geralt of Rivia. Everyone wants to play as The Witcher. So, at some point, I think everyone kind of realized, we want to be Geralt of Rivia, we want to be The Witcher, and then we basically continued the story, and we made up our own, continuation of whatever happens, and introduced back all of these characters that people actually grew to love. Alright, so we already talked a little bit about how we started, when we decided to make Geralt of Rivia, but maybe let's go even further back to the start. How do we even start, thinking about these stories that we then turn into video games?
Yeah, so, well, obviously you start by reading the books and, getting to know the lore, etc., but it's deeper than that, because we have to go to the inspiration for our own inspiration, which means to all the stuff that inspired the author of the series. And this is also inspiring for us, and we use it to build our worlds in the game, right? So it's kind of like a postmodern deconstruction almost of fairy tales and all the Slavic mythology that we use, or for the case of Beauclerc we also use sorry for my French, chanson de geste of Roman mythology. So for us, we use all of that as inspiration, and the deconstruction comes from the fact that we put real people like you and I into that fantasy world filled with elves and monsters and and all that stuff. I was trying to say chimeras, but I said orcs, whatever.
No,
there's no orcs in
the Witcher.
in the Witcher world. I wanted to say chimeras. Anyway, all of that is also interesting on the meta level, because the way this world actually works, like in the lore, is it has real people from our world, like our physical world, in the fantasy world. This all happened in an event that is called the Conjunction of the Spheres, where two planets aligned and the people from our world were transported into the fantasy world that Geralt lives in. So it's interesting on a meta level, because the inspirations are actually kind of made manifest in the world.
Mm-hmm. Well, also these inspirations are kind of important when it comes to the kind of themes and like general topics we want to explore. So often, essentially, when we come up with quests, we often look at, let's say, the world that Geralt moves around in. So as an example, in The Witcher Wild Hunt, Geralt explores Velen, which is a part of Redania, and in this time it's war-torn. So of course we want to tell lots of stories that have to do with these topics. Mm-hmm. So we basically, when we come up with quests, we think, what themes are interesting for us to explore. What interests us, and then what interests, as an example, the audience. So for sure, as an example, if we would tell stories about a war-torn land, as an example, I as a quest designer would say, I think I have an idea. I want to make a story about, let's say, civilian suffering in this world. And then we essentially start doing our research, because we essentially always say, we're making mature games, we tell mature stories. And that doesn't mean that it has to have, gore and violence and sex. Of course, that can always be part of it. But what it actually means is that we really want to tell about topics that we think are important, that are interested to us, and that essentially make people, think when they play, and that make them feel when they play, and that are, maybe sometimes a little bit challenging. So this is often for us actually the first thing to start, essentially to really go. We don't just want to tell stories of, a witcher walking around the land and slaying monsters, because that's not what we want to do, that's not what Sapkowski did, but really to say, what is actually an interesting theme that, is worth exploring. And that's basically our rule for almost every single quest, where we just ask, why does that story need to be told? And if, we can answer all of these questions, then we usually have a good start for a quest.
But there's also a technical challenge to that, right? Because you just said war-torn land, right? And this puts a mental picture in my mind that kind of fills in the details, and I have this picture 100% rendered in my head. Now, the thing is, in a game where we want to immerse you, we actually have to do all that work. We as a team, not we as quest designers, but the whole studio has to work on rendering this war-torn land in painstaking detail, pretty much, because it's environment artists, it's FX artists, it's level designers, it's all that stuff that we need to actually physically create in the game so that it looks like a war-torn land. So all the details that in a book you can kind of fill in with an offhand sentence, we do have to render to make it immersive, right? So there's this technical thing.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, we also have to do it in a realistic way, because we're always saying we don't want to make a stage on which our stories take place. We actually want to create a world. And essentially, if you're supposed to be immersed in these worlds, you're also supposed to feel that it's real. So I can just give one example. In The Witcher Wild Hunt, you're exploring the city of Novigrad, which, fans of the books might already know and love. And we basically had to do tons and tons of research, our concept teams, our environment art teams, to really see that the city shouldn't just look like any medieval city, but also it needs to function. The city is a big merchant city, so it needs a really big harbor. It, as an example, has a very famous harbor crane, and it needs, proper walls around it with lots of different gates, because Novigrad is a free city in the state of Redania, so of course it needs lots of defense. And then we also, had to think about, how do these people feed themselves? Of course, they do have a harbor.
The what do they eat question.
Exactly,
right?
What do they eat? So
the
actually,
basic question when you world build, basically.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's not just that, there's a city and now there's forests full of monsters. No, actually, it's a big medieval city. So of course, it is surrounded by, lands of fields that live different weeds grow there. And then, of course, we actually had people checking what kind of weeds would they grow in different parts of the world, because, of course, the temperature matters. And all of these details. Because the thing is, we don't necessarily have to tell you, all of this thing is there, the infrastructure, so the world works. But if they are not there, you just notice that it's missing. You just feel like I'm walking around some artificial world, but what you're supposed to feel like that you are Geralt of Rivia living in the world of The Witcher.
You take all of that subconsciously, you take it all in subconsciously, and then by just way of being there, it gives a much bigger gravitas and depth to all the stories that we tell, because they happen in your mind, real world, right, as a player.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's cool.
All right, so we talked about what kind of things inspire us when we start to come up with stories. But now let's also maybe just quickly give people a glimpse on all the challenges we actually face in making these stories into video games.
So one challenge that might be not that obvious, but it is the first thing that comes to my mind, is the point of view that the player has in the game. Because in a game you're fixed to one point of view, which is the main character's point of view, Geralt's point of view, and you can't do cuts like you would do in a movie where you show actions and events happening in a different place, different time sometimes. you are focused on just this one character and how he sees the world. So basically, you're traveling through the world with like a point of view camera almost. This is a storytelling challenge, definitely, because we have to make all the important events happen in front of the character, and this means we have to justify their presence in these events, right? We do sometimes in the games, Witcher 1, Witcher 2, Witcher 3, allow you to play as a different character. So that will be the example of Ciri, for example, who you get to play as like an exciting change of pace from time to time, to see how the story develops from her point of view, because arguably she is the main character of The Witcher 3, right? You play as Geralt, but you can't help her, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think she's kind of all of our favorite, so we all like Ciri very much. Well, the thing is also, we talked about, that we create an open world and not just a stage, but it also kind of creates these challenges for actually making a story then, because usually if you want to tell a story, you want to go from A to B to C, and usually you want to make the choices that are, best for the flow of the story. But we, of course, say we want to make an open world so you can run everywhere. So as an example, if you're walking around with a character, player might decide to just run away. And then, our game and our stories, they still kind of need to work. So it is actually often our job to essentially make sure that whatever action the player can take, the story still works. And, sometimes the story notices. Sometimes a character might, complain if you're rude to them. And I think that's always, it's always nice when you can actually, as a player, I think, find these little spots. But of course, also, it's kind of one challenge that we have is to not make you want to run away, to actually make you want to follow that story along. And usually, when we can tell that, while playing our quests, people just, they start looking around and they start running away, and probably something's also wrong with our quest and we should change our approach a little.
This might actually happen when you present choices that are not intuitive for the player at the point where they are presented to you, because as quest designers, we have to sort of anticipate what would be the natural reactions, not only for the player but also for Geralt, when presented with a problem, right? It really feels bad when you want to approach a certain situation from a certain in a certain way, and the game doesn't present you with that option. That's not fun. So what we need to do is we need to anticipate what the player might want to do, and then when that choice presents itself, it feels really good because you can actually do that thing that logically made sense to you, right?
And also we kind of have to give you that power to be able to make those choices. So all three of the Witcher games are RPGs, so role-playing games, and you usually play the role of Geralt of Rivia. Thing is, Geralt, of course, knows the rules of the world of The Witcher. He knows the culture, he knows the politics. And then it is also our job to make the player be able to know all of these things. So, we're not gonna start the game by saying, okay, you're in the kingdom of Redania, this is the king of Redania, this is, all the laws that exist. But we kind of try to do it naturally. So as an example, you might walk by some peasants that complain about, someone raised the taxes again. And these kind of, details where you really start, getting a feeling for how the world works. What is the culture? What kind of religions do people have? What do they believe in? And then, once you get all of that information, I think you're also able to, make choices. Because if you don't have any information to base your decisions on, that's not a good choice. That's just, choosing A and B, and I don't know what A and B are or, what they could cause. So that's also a very important job that we have to make that possible.
And sometimes we use the player's character Geralt as a tool for exposition, because he does know this stuff, so he can use it. He can tell it to the player, so to speak. But this also builds into the fact of player expectations, because the Witcher universe is books, comics, series, movies. There's this famous Polish movie, and all of this stuff has built a layer of expectations that fans even us, right? I remember the first time we saw the Yennefer model, like everyone gathered at Mateusz Tomaszkiewicz's computer, our quest director. Well, he was lead back then, right? And everyone gathered around his computer and they were looking at how Yennefer looks in the game. It was the first time I saw her, and everyone had their opinions, of course, but but at the end of the day, it was really something to see, you know, the mental image that we had of her after reading the books and watching the movies rendered on the computer screen, and then, you know, a big privilege of getting to actually use this model, right? And make quests with it and all of that stuff. So yeah.
All right, so maybe let's get a little bit to the star of our games, which is Geralt of Rivia. And of course, you know, as you're playing The Witcher, you're playing Geralt, and there are some unique challenges when essentially making him a video game character that you as a player are controlling. Maybe let's talk a little bit about that part.
Yeah, this is actually super interesting because I noticed it first when I played The Witcher 1 as a fan. So there's this whole gamut of actions that Geralt does that are mentioned in the books. The making of potions, obviously the sword fighting, horse riding, all these things that kind of build a picture of what it means to be a witcher in this world, right? And for this experience in the game to be immersive, we need to translate all of that into gameplay actions, into things that the player can do. Because by doing these things, by sword fighting, by mixing potions, researching monsters, talking to people really also, that's a big part of it, you start to feel like a witcher basically, because that's what you're doing for your interaction with the game, right?
Well, it's also for us, we just had to pretty much adopt his character. Because I think for many people, when they see Geralt for the first time, they think like, oh, he has a deep, raspy voice. He's probably some graph, some action hero. But the thing is, Geralt is a bit more than that. He actually has a lot of depth as a character. I really like his dry humor very much. And he has, very interesting friendships. I always love it when he discusses philosophy with his friends. My favorite Regis. It's always the best times. But also, basically, Geralt has a unique role in this world. He is a mutant. And the world of The Witcher, is a fantasy world, but also it has lots of, real life topics. There's lots of racism in this world. There's sexism. It is a fantasy world, but it's kind of
place.
Exactly. It is a place that could have existed. Mix the real medieval world with fantasy. So Geralt is an outsider. Geralt has cat eyes. He has white hair, and people do know what a witcher is. A witcher is there to kill monsters. But for most people, a witcher is not that much better than a monster. They're accepted as long as they do their job. Exactly, they're a mutant.
He says that he's not human multiple times.
Yeah,
he doesn't feel like he belongs to the race, really.
Yeah, that's the thing. People, tend to spit at him when they see him in the streets, and you are essentially inhabiting this role. Geralt is not a shining hero in a shining armor. He usually often, he tries to do the right thing, but usually, a witcher is supposed to stay neutral. But, in the end, if he's to make a choice between good and evil, he'd rather not make a choice at all. So, of course, we have to honor that character and, make you really inhabit him as a real person. All right, so we now talked for quite a while about, The Witcher and our experiences creating the stories, our memories of making the quests in The Witcher, and I hope it kind of came across how much we love the games and our jobs making them.
And there's also one other thing we want to share with you, because we've talked about our own memories, mainly from The Witcher 3 and the expansions, but there are people at the company who have been here way longer than us, since Witcher 1 times basically, and they also have their own memories, which I invite you to see.
Może sobie do dowodu walnę, takie to jest dobre oświetlenie.
To jest moje miejsce.
Tak.
Are we talking to each other, or are we talking to one of the cameras, or?
I was doing the text.
I'm ready to go.
Is everybody ready?
No, to był fajny trailer.
Yeah, I remember Badowski talking about this like, it has to be a magic hour.
Współpraca z Tomkiem Bagińskim, początek naszej znajomości.
To był trailer, który oglądałem nie myśląc jeszcze o tym, że mogę pracować w branży gier.
Tak, to jest w ogóle pierwsza rzecz, którą zrobiliśmy, z której byliśmy bardzo dumni. Ja pamiętam, że wtedy to była dla nas strasznie ważna rzecz, bo to było CG. Pierwsze CG i to było coś niezwykłego.
I was kind of proud when this came out and I felt like, yeah, we can do stuff.
Yeah.
Really nice stuff. Although the hair sucked.
Ja pamiętam, że w pracy u mojej żony wszystkim paniom strasznie się podobał właśnie ten Wiedźmin i mówiły, że będzie super.
What was the name of the character that Geralt actually used as his bait? I remember absolutely loving his cartoonish way of running. His legs just seemed to spin around like... do, 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 do.
O nie. Niesamowite.
Well, you know what it is.
Jakie to były
Słynne
targi?
zdjęcie z internetu, też w zasadzie memowe zdjęcie jest.
I never saw this actually. I don't think I've ever seen this photo.
No, po prostu nie było nas stać na wynajęcie dużej budki, zrobienie tam standu własnego.
Nie jest tak źle.
The E3 came a long way from kind of...
Oh yeah, well our presence at E3 has come a long way, but I think E3 has come a long way as well.
Byliśmy taką grupą osób, która chciała zawojować, być lepsza od tych innych produkcji, które były wtedy na rynku.
Pamiątka, jak wygląda branża gier komputerowych w Polsce, gdy powstawał pierwszy Wiedźmin. To była trochę taka wolna amerykanka, troszeczkę taki dziki zachód.
Trzeba było zbudować cały łańcuch takich hostów, którzy łapali dziennikarzy, przyprowadzali tam, odprowadzali. To oczywiście
Na
było...
siłę.
No to było duże przedsięwzięcie i wszystko robiliśmy w takiej taktyce partyzanckiej.
Pamiętam, że mieliśmy plakaty, które chcieliśmy rozdawać i nikt ich nie chciał brać i wymyśliliśmy, że wbijemy się do kolejki Blizzarda i dawaliśmy ludziom stojącym w kolejce i nas goniła ochrona.
Young and beautiful. It was a GDC, right? I was doing some GDC stuff, and the Płatkov called me like, hey, you know what? There is this party you have to attend in the evening. I was like, but I have stuff, and he's like, no, just get into the taxi and come in, and you'll be fine. And then I came in, and there's like a room with like filled with 10,000 people, basically, and they give me the microphone on the stage, saying that I'm supposed to say something.
In fact, the last time I was here, Donald gave me a gift. The video game developed here in Poland that's won fans the world over, The Witcher. I confess I'm not very good at video games, but I've been told that it is a great example of Poland's
Niesamowite.
place in the new global economy.
Oglądaliśmy przed chwilą to takie krzesełko i to stanowisko, a następna rzecz, którą oglądamy, to jest prezydent Obama, który wypowiada się o Wiedźminie i to wszystko na przestrzeni dosłownie kilku lat. To w bardzo krótkim czasie zrobiliśmy jakiś taki ogromny skok do przodu. W zasadzie tylko dzięki pracy ciężkiej bardzo wielu ludzi.
Tak, wtedy sprawy jakoś przyspieszyły totalnie, to znaczy nagle okazało się, że, to jest głupio o tym mówić, ale że Wiedźmin stał się jakąś rzeczą, która w ogóle łączy Polaków, to jest wszystkich dobro.
Tak, to chyba był ten taki moment, w którym zacząłem sobie coraz mocniej zdawać sprawę z tego, jak bardzo jest to ważne w skali globalnej.
Ktoś zadzwonił z kancelarii na recepcję i powiedział, że tutaj mają taką prośbę, chcieliby prezent dla prezydenta Baracka Obamy, czy mogą dostać grę w jakiejkolwiek edycji. Ludzie z recepcji pomyśleli, że to jest chyba jakiś dowcip troszkę i że ktoś tam próbuje ściemnić, więc poprosili o kontakt osobisty, żeby ktoś przyszedł.
Wystosowaliśmy list od zarządu do prezydenta Obamy. Mieliśmy ileś wersji wydrukowane na takim bardzo ładnym papierze i jak się podpisywałem, to źle się podpisałem, bo to musi ładniej...
Pamiętam, że ktoś biegał i prosił o podpisy i na pytanie dla kogo, to dla Obamy i wszyscy, aha, to jasne, dawali podpis i zajmowali się swoimi rzeczami.
Wanna?
Ojej.
No, Geralt w wannie.
Jak jeździliśmy pokazywać grę, to za każdym razem na każdym komputerze było trzeba sprawdzić, czy działa, ustawić i pograć kilka minut. W związku z tym tą scenę widziałem nieprzyzwoicie dużo razy.
He has very pretty feet. His feet are too pretty for a Witcher. There should be callus. Yeah, there should be calluses there and so on and so forth. No, I'm serious. There should be boils and.
No jest ikoniczne.
Tak.
To jest ikoniczne.
Zostanie na zawsze.
Ja zasadniczo w ogóle tak się kąpię w codziennie.
Z takimi fajnymi
Znaczy,
zabawkami.
stawiam nogi, tak. Zabawki są mojego syna, ale...
Geralt ilustrował wszystkie artykuły na PC Gamerze i za każdym razem, gdy nie dali jako ilustracji tego artykułu Geralta w wannie, to wszyscy czytelnicy protestowali głośno i musieli przywracać ilustrację tak, żeby to był rzeczywiście Geralt w wannie.
But it was a lot of work. Even the sponge that floats on the surface of it, and it has like a special shader.
Na Prima Aprilis zrobiliśmy kiedyś figurkę i to był prototyp, jedna sztuka na drukarce 3D stworzona, ale musieliśmy później zrobić prawdziwego, bo zbyt dużo osób chciało koniecznie, żeby była prawdziwa, a nie tylko Prima Aprilisowym fejkiem.
Wow, mówiłem. Poznaję tego gościa.
Trochę poszła technologia na przysz.
To jest inwencja modelarzy, nie moja, żeby...
A podpisali papiery, żeby mogli to zrobić?
Potem już podpisałem, jak się już zrobiliśmy bardzo profesjonalnie.
That's a long story.
I need a drink.
Widzę teraz, jak strasznie dużo tam gadali w tych dialogach. Teraz już tak nie robi się gier. No ale to oczywiście miało swój urok. Widać właśnie, tak jak powiedziałeś, nie? Jak strasznie się technologia zmieniła.
We came a long way from this. I hope.
From that, do you know what I think? Yes, we've definitely come a long way. We've definitely come a long way from a lot of things here.
Nie tylko jeżeli chodzi o grafikę, ale też mimikę postaci, w ogóle wszystkie animacje, to w jaki sposób prezentowane jest scena.
The repeating non-met in dialogue. It was like, okay, so if you exit the conversation here and you reinitiate the conversation, he'll say this line over and over again. I'm all ears, White Wolf. I'm all ears, White Wolf.
I'm all ears, White Wolf.
We kind of knew how to use them, but kind of didn't know how to use them. So there were some really awkward ones, like, hey, Witcher! You know, good to see you. And you'd get that, 35 times during a conversation.
I hated that.
It was one of the priorities to get rid of that.
Wiedźmin 1, Wiedźmin 2, Wiedźmin 3. Widać, jak się starzał razem z nami.
No, 3 Geraltów zmieniających się. To jest w ogóle, to jest wielowymiarowe.
Completely a raw badass.
Cała stylistyka tego, to jest w jedynce mieliśmy estetyczne białe tło, w trójce podobnie, a w dwójce totalny Hollywood, eksplozje, wszystko w ogniu, a ty idziesz w slow motion, oddalając się od płomieni.
To scena z Desperado, jak z Banderasem. No, ale to smaczy ogień, to trochę usprawiedliwia.
Troszeczkę. I nie ma gitary.
Oczywiście to też jest cała generacja technologiczna. Pierwszy Wiedźmin składający się z, 15 000 trójkątów, a kolejne to już jakieś w ogóle setki.
Nawet mi nie mów o trójkątach
Tak.
w Wiedźminie pierwszym, drugim czy trzecim. No to wiesz, to jest chodząca lokacja.
With The Witcher 2, we actually gave body to the continent.
Yeah, we started to explore. There is a
we started
universe,
sailing.
right?
Yeah. We started exploring the universe.
Przy dwójce to chyba ta okładka trochę tak powstawała. Ja pamiętam, że mieliśmy masę różnych wersji okładek wszystkich gier ze świata i bardzo chcieliśmy się inspirować najlepszymi. Przy okładce do trójki to już było trochę tak, co nam się najbardziej podoba i co uważamy, że najbardziej pasuje.
No i potem już taki super dojrzały Facio z Wiedźmina III.
Najlepszy.
No, jest zdecydowanie najbardziej taki data.
Been through hell and high water, you and me. Fact is, you know me better than anyone else does.
To ja się przy tym nie wiem dlaczego wzruszam i mam ciarki.
Thanks for everything. And know we all miss you.
No to jest Fear Factor.
So, might be my birthday, but I say, here's to you.
Jak o nim myślę, to sobie przypominam, no tak, on jest takim w sumie podsumowaniem, że to się skończyło i nie, to on nie istnieje.
No, to jest świetne zakończenie trzeciej części Wiedźmina w Toussaint. To jest taka kropka na D.
Właśnie zakończone jeszcze w takim miejscu, które bardzo przyjemnie się kojarzy. Wakacyjnie, urlopowo.
I just need to say something that we went a hell lot of work to actually upres all our textures and we have much better textures nowadays, so I'm so proud
So
of
this
that.
is shit.
Yes.
Pokazaliśmy go na PAX-ie w Seattle, na panelu urodzinowym i pamiętam, że tam odważyliśmy się wynająć taką wielką salę, taki amfiteatr na 2300 miejsc. Miałem mega stres, że nie wypełnimy sali, ale potem się okazało, że było na full i mega wrażenie było.
No, ciar faktor.
No, łezka wokół się kręci.
Czy to koniec?
Geralt started talking to gamers directly. We broke the fourth wall, and there was a little bit of winking, a little bit of smile. That sort of freed us up a little bit, And I think there's still lots more to do with this franchise.
Definitely. And especially with the better textures.
Especially with the better textures. Ready?
3-4. O. Nie ma drugiego człowieka, na którego bym tak często wpadał leżącego na ziemi w jakiejś salce, jak Marcin. Myślałem wiele razy, że salka jest pusta, po czym się okazywało, że Marcin leży na ziemi i z kimś rozmawia. I myślałem na początku, że to jest jedyna pozycja, w której spotykasz się z ludźmi.
He is the really grumpy, but sometimes interesting folk that I know here, and I would like to thank him for this years of cooperation.
Pamiętam, jak pojechaliśmy do Kolonii na targi, no i wszyscy się przygotowywali. Między innymi były takie dodatkowe atrakcje na zewnątrz i była taka atrakcja, która polegała na tym, że wchodziło się do wielkiej kuli przezroczystej i na takim ograniczonym boisku można było się poturlać. I ty wskoczyłeś do tej kuli i tak ją rozbujałeś, że wyskoczyłeś poza to boisko i gdzieś tam się daleko poturlałeś i to jest w ogóle taki symbol tego, że obojętnie jakich momentach kryzysowych ty jesteś niezłomny, pełen energii i to w ogóle się nie zmieniło.
Nie będę opowiadał żadnych kompromitujących rzeczy, ani niczego sensacyjnego, tylko opowiem, że za każdym razem właśnie jak się zbliżała premiera gry, gra jeździła na targi, jak właśnie produkowane były te wszystkie trailery i zawsze łapałem się za głowę, o Boże, nie? Ile tam jest spoilerów, a to jest w ogóle takie nieortodoksyjne, nie? Tu uspokajałeś, nie, tak się robi, to jest wszystko dobrze, wszystko właśnie na dobre wyszło i że miałeś rację.
Ty, Adam, a może byśmy zrobili tutaj, nie wiem, wielkiego niedźwiedzia, który wychodzi na początek, potem robi mu ujęcie na coś tam i tak tworzyliśmy pewien scenariusz, żeby wizualnie było jeszcze fajniej, żeby było jeszcze bardziej atrakcyjnie i chyba to dla mnie jest najważniejsze w pracy z tobą.
I don't know a more precise individual in my life. You're thin and you're lanky and physically you remind me of a scalpel. You're Krzysztof the Scalpel Krzyścin to me.
Drugą rzecz jeszcze powiem. Pamiętam, że kiedyś na korytarzu żeście sobie siedzieli i kombinowali i przechodząc wam tak zazdrościłem strasznie. Tam były jakieś wykresy, smok, kreska, coś, tutaj elfy, atak. Tutaj mówię, wow, ale super, mają taką wielką sesję roleplaying, która trwa przez pół ich życia.
Pamiętasz, jak skończyliśmy Wiedźmina pierwszego i zrobiliśmy imprezę taką małą i w pewnym momencie ktoś z nas wpadł na pomysł, nie wiem, czy to nie ty czasami, żeby te wielkie tablice korkowe, na których błędy przechodziły z jednej kolumny do drugiej, a już były niepotrzebne, gra była zamknięta, żeby je rozwalić, żeby już mieć żeby zrobić jakąś kropkę nad niej, żeby zniszczyć te wszystkie taski, wszystkie problemy, które były i pamiętam, że zrobiliśmy to. Byliśmy bardzo niegrzeczni.
If you've been with us from the start, then you're no stranger to their music. Our house band is back. The amazing Marcin Piwovic and Percival, take it away. It seems there's always more to learn about the people behind the Witcher universe and the amazing work that they do. Next, we're going to take a look at The Witcher Monster Slayer, a mobile location-based AR game developed and published by the Spocko team. This new adventure in the world of The Witcher will be available shortly, so let's dive in and hear what it's all about from Raphael.
Have you ever dreamt of being a Witcher? In our game, The Witcher Monster Slayer, you'll strap on the boots of a professional monster hunter and explore the real world around you. By combining a location-based genre and augmented reality with the visual quality known from The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, we're bringing the monster-infested realm directly into our world. To feel what it's like to be a professional Witcher for yourself, all you need is your phone. But our game is not just about hunting and killing beautifully rendered beasts. Above all, it's the adventures we live that define our experience as a Witcher. And that's what we'd like to share with you today.
The Witcher Monster Slayer tells your stories and takes you on adventures in a completely novel way. It will be witchering like you've never seen before. Imagine facing an iconic task that only a Witcher can handle.
Who are you?
Lifting a curse that has turned an innocent child into a bloodthirsty Striga.
Since when does gold burn?
Few have ever succeeded in breaking the spell or killing this particular beast, though many have tried. In The Witcher Monster Slayer, this task will fall to you. Put your bravery to the test and see if you have the power to save the cursed child, where so many others have failed. But to rise to this challenge, you'll have to pay attention to the world around you, because the game plays out in real time. Like a true Witcher, you'll need to prepare, bide your time, and wait until nightfall for the fearsome Striga to appear. And from there, everything is in your hands.
Since the worldwide premiere is just around the corner, prepare your phone and be ready for July 21st, 2021. The Witcher Monster Slayer is going to be available for free both on Android and iOS, and you can also pre-register right now on Google Play and grab some cool stuff on release day. The path awaits you.
Clearly, there's plenty to look forward to in the coming months or even years. But there's one topic that we haven't really touched upon during this edition of WitcherCon, and that's figurines. So find out next how these collectible pieces were created, what inspired them, and what they really mean to their makers.
Hi everyone, I'm Aleksandra Jaroszkiewicz from CD Projekt Red, where I'm e-commerce director here at the studio. I'm also responsible for the production of the CD Projekt Red gear line of Witcher World figures. We've been blown away by the love you've shown our Japanese-inspired takes on Geralt and Ciri. Today, I want to talk to you about the creative process behind these designs, which were so rewarding for artists to work on. Folklore and myths like the ones you see in The Witcher often share common themes across the world. Having previously played with this idea, we knew The Witcher's character could work in vastly different settings. Our partners have done some amazing work with figures in the past. They brought the designs of The Witcher to life in such a detailed way, staying very faithful to the style of the games. So, it was enticing for us to step outside the bounds of the dark medieval The Witcher is known for, and into a different kind of a dark medieval with Geralt running. You can see that all you know and love about Geralt is right there in full force. He's still a monster slayer, he's still a master swordsman, but we've transported him right into the heart of feudal Japan and really made him feel like an authentic wandering samurai. It was an exciting moment for us seeing the figure take shape. We experimented with the style and spent a lot of time figuring out how to translate the White Wolf's character and the world of The Witcher, so it made sense in this new context, and honored it too. When we revealed Ronin Geralt, the feedback from fans was amazing. That gave the art team a lot of confidence to look deeper into this setting inspired by Japan's history, see what other aspects we could explore. We went on to do so with Ciri and the Kitsune. We wanted to make Ciri look and feel powerful and supreme, but also incredibly elegant. Her stance is tall and proud, very confident, and her traditional bright yellow yukata emphasizes that as well. And like Geralt, the character of Ciri is similar to what we know from the games, but this setting gives her a different essence. By taking Ciri and building this Japanese scene around her, it also feels like it adds to her mythology too. After all, she's the lady of space and time. I think she was the perfect follow-up to our first figure. We paid a lot of attention to the individual settings for each figure. We carefully planned the composition and design of each figure's base to help us tell their stories and set the scene. Geralt's is a quiet moment as he hunts his way through the Koyasan's Okunoin cemetery, while Ciri's is more destructive, placing her in the ruins of destroyed shrine. We took our time to make the base as detailed as possible, especially when it comes to grounding them in the Japanese culture and mythology. The creatures that accompany each character are another way we bring in additional Japanese influences that add to the story of each figure. The Ronin version of Geralt is accompanied by an owl, a friendly Tatarimoke spirit, as he prepares to battle evil Oni demons. Ciri, on the other hand, is followed by a wise kitsune fox with 5 tails. With its yellow, witchery eyes, it acts as a guardian and guide as Ciri takes on a dangerous mission to take on a powerful yokai. Working on Geralt and Ciri has given us a lot of new ideas for possible stories to capture in these standalone scenes. And now I am happy to share with you our latest addition to our family of figures, Yennefer. We've designed Yen as a kunoichi, a female ninja. The colors and the atmosphere fit her beautifully, and the ninjutsu style connects nicely with her character. When we envision Yennefer in this magical Japanese realm, the ninjutsu aura makes total sense for such a mighty sorceress. It balances a mystic atmosphere with unmatched skill. That's Yen all over. Similarly to Geralt and Ciri, Yen is also accompanied by her own creature, a Nekomata. This two-tailed cat acts as a Yennefer's familiar. For a kunoichi of such great poise, power and magical knowledge, this agile little feline friend makes the perfect companion. Like we did with our previous figures, we've put a lot of love into designing this latest reimagining, and we can't wait to show you the final result in not too long. Enjoy the rest of the WitcherCon. Bye!
Welcome to Gwent the Witcher card game, our online collectible card game set in the Witcher universe. The game is free to play and available on PC, iOS, and Android. If you want to know more about Gwent, head on over to playgwent.com. Let's watch a short video explaining the basics of the game to you before we will proceed to its competitive core.
Set in a dark and twisted world full of witchers, monsters, knights, and sorceresses, Gwent is a card game where armies clash and you, as commander, lead the charge. You engage in battles divided into rounds. To win a round, you need to gain more points than your opponent. To win a battle, you need to claim victory in 2 out of 3 rounds. Sound easy? Trust me, it won't be. Behold your favorite characters, beautifully drawn and animated. Outsmart your opponents on the battlefield, and expand your collection of cards just by playing. Powerful armies and mighty commanders, tough choices and brutal consequences. This is the world of the Witcher, and it's at your fingertips. So see you on the battlefield.
Alright, Gwent has a vibrant esports scene, and on June 5th and 6th, we hosted the finals for Season 1 of Gwent World Masters, our official esports circuit. Today you'll be able to see the highlights of the event with my commentary. We started off with the top 8 players going head-to-head in the quarterfinals.
There's the Tin Boy, swipes both rows up 30 points.
If this is it, I am genuinely shocked. Coleman successfully beating Colgrim 3 times.
This is World Masters, ladies and gentlemen. Lots of bank on the line, lots of pride, lots of win here for Adzikov as he takes it through. Why not? Let's go ahead. Tempering, you got the stage, my friend. You can do what you want as he goes through and drops a 15-point gourd just for show, as it is not even
35
close.
wins the final round by 35.
Oh gosh, he gets a shield on Selkirk. He 3-0s DeMarcus.
Wow.
And he goes through to the semi-finals tomorrow. What a series, Lionheart.
After that, only 4 were left, including Life Coach, Colin Owen, Adzikov, and Freddie Babe, which would go on to the semi-finals. In the semis, Colin Owen and Freddie Babes emerged victorious and would take on each other in the grand final, along with a big chunk of the $250,000 prize pool. In the final, Colin Owen banned Freddie's Syndicate list, while Freddie opted to ban Colin Owen's Skellige deck. For those new to the format, this series is played in a best of 5, meaning that you need to win 3 games to win the whole match. In our tournaments, players additionally can ban one deck before the start of the game if they feel that one of the decks of their opponents might be too strong or can counter their lineup. Both players opted to start off with their Scoia'tael lists, Nature's Gift versus Elf Movement. Nature's Gift relies on playing a lot of special cards and boosting Harald Gord, while Movement has powerful cards like Gezris, which can jump between the melee and range rows. In the second game, we saw Freddie opt for Northern Realms, while Colin Owen decided to go with the Syndicate Pirates Cove mid-range deck. Northern Realms relies on playing a lot of strong soldiers and has 1 copy of each card in order to utilize Radea, the win condition. Syndicate consists of the gangs of Novigrad and uses coins to trigger abilities.
Both players with 4 golds in their hands. This is what we signed up for, Flake. Oh, this is so good.
But that is phenomenal.
But Colomon has no spender. He's got no real spender, but he's got Horson as a pseudo spender and Horst Borsodi as another pseudo spender that's limited to how many times you can spend.
Well,
this is going to be enough.
you're going to be able to also just eat up that last soldier there for 3, as Horson Jr. is going to be able to come through and just crush the hopes and dreams of Maxi here. And there she goes. The bounty is collected. Collect your prize there, my friend, as it's everybody is going to have a Merry Christmas with a little bit of extra vitality.
After going 2-0, Coleman looked confident heading into the third game. Freddy decided to go with Nilfgaard. We're seeing the Empire of Nilfgaard for the first time. This is a faction that likes to manipulate your opponent's deck, as well as use poison and other shenanigans to win.
Duchess is going to come through and create a clone of his own.
And here we go. Nilfgaard doing Nilfgaard things. Playing your strategy better than you can. We've got the first copy of the Griffin Witcher on the board.
After game 3, we saw Freddy making a comeback. Yes, folks, sometimes reverse sweeps can happen in Gwent. In the next game, we saw both players go with their Northern Realms deck. One is a Swarm version, which wants to create as many units as possible, while the other one is a Redea list we mentioned previously.
City Guard does its best. Lyrian Siphon is going to come through, and a 6-point Maxi is a nice card to have in round 1, but unfortunately it's not going to be enough. Freddy Babe showing his love through the internet, through time and space. The respect is there, and Colamone.
And actually, the emotion. Yes, the fist pump by Colamone, the relief, the celebration.
And just like that, Coleman from Germany became the Season 1 Gwent World Master.
Hello, Coleman, you made it. You are the Season 1 champion. A lot of times, a lot of people were saying that you are the most consistent, that you are the strongest player, and you have proved it today. Congratulations. I don't think there's anything more I could say, but that was a stellar play. You killed it. How are you? I mean, you just won a ton of money.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling great. What can I say? I want to take the opportunity and thank everyone that helped me prepare. It was the whole of Team Aretusa and but even other people from other teams helped out in our preparation.
Wow, Coleman just won $119,000. Thank you for tuning in to this quick recap of Gwent World Masters Season 1 Final. If you want to know more about Gwent and try it for yourself, head on over to playgwent.com. Catch you on the battlefield.